4 weeks in, I guess we're trying to formulate an opinion about these teams. And your number one team, by the way, was number one in my Find Five this week, so we're on the same page there. But as I try to do my Find Five, I'm having a hard time just find 5 teams. It seems that there's a lot of depth in the NFL this year and a lot of teams that could be looking at the Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's the one thing that I wrote about and observed is the fact that there's not one dominant team this year. Where last year maybe you could say there was or wasn't. I mean, certainly Kansas City was going to be a dominant team. Tampa Bay until the end became a dominant team. But this year there just doesn't seem to be a dominant team. So many of the teams that were good last year have bad defenses, and maybe they'll get better as time goes on. But it's really kind of pulled things down and made things wide open.
They really did. Now, some of the teams that you list, and number 10 on your list is Kansas City. They were just here in Philly. They're last place in the AFC West, and we think that will change. But they really better fix their defense if they want to be a more serious Super Bowl contender.
No question about it, because you can see that they have questions at the cornerback position. Certainly they've not been able to get the kind of pass rush that they want. The linebacker core is, kind of average to a degree. And so because of that, it's held them back. And then they redid the offensive line. And in redoing the offensive line, you can see there's issues there. So they've got a lot of work to do. So even though I started out that they were, my number one team, and it's number 2 team, is that because Tampa Bay was my number 1, it's like, you look at it and you go, okay, so I'll put them down low right now and give them a chance to build up.
There's a lot of teams on this list, by the way, for the listeners out there that you're going to want to hear, because I think there's just some prize areas out there from how this season has started. You're starting to see this thing. It almost feels like some new blood is entering, and one of those teams, I guess, would be the Rams, who lost last week, but that win over the Tampa Bay Bucks, I guess, puts them in contender status.
No question about it. But again, the way that they lost last week just makes you kind of wonder a little bit about them, because statistically they're 27th in defense for yards allowed, and they're one of the worst teams in the league as far as third down conversions and allowing them, because they've given up about 50% on third down conversions. I mean, you can see they have issues at the cornerback position. Even Aaron Donald, as dominant as he is, and he's the best player in the game, is in a position where you look at it and you go, whoa, what's going on there? Because he hardly did anything last week.
We're talking with John Clayton from the Washington Post. He's looking at 10 Super Bowl contenders through the first 4 weeks of the season, and there's some really interesting teams on this list. Number 8, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, obviously, here in the Philly market, people not too happy to hear that, but I got to agree with you, John. In fact, I'm wondering if they're too low on your list. This Dallas team impresses me every week with the balance they have on offense and the playmakers they have on defense.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, because you can look and you can see now that Dak Prescott's back and playing at an MVP level, that they're in great shape there, because they've got 3 good receivers: Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in the league. And so just getting Dak Prescott back gives them a great chance to bounce back and do so well. And so right now, they're, I think, in a very dominant position in the NFC East. And, Dak is up there among 5, 6, 7 players that right now you're looking at that very well could be guys that could be MVPs.
Yeah, now Baltimore's next on your list, which is interesting because, I feel like Baltimore at 3-1, for whatever reason, you have them at number 7, which, it seems like they got to show a little bit more. But I don't know why I don't feel that this Baltimore team is the same as some of the Baltimore teams of the recent past that I did believe in.
Well, injuries. I mean, when you lose your top 3 running backs, you lose your left guard for the season. Ronnie Stanley has now been able to play in the last 3 weeks. On defense, you lose Marcus Peters at quarterback. Nick Boyle, the tight end, is out. He's on injured reserve. So you throw all that together, and you can see it's like, okay, they're missing some pieces. But again, they've got Lamar Jackson. They've got the good running game, even though, again, it's a patchwork running backfield. But I think right now, they go down a little bit, mainly because of the injuries.
We're looking at John Clayton's Super Bowl contenders through the quarter poll, and I guess maybe, I don't know if that's a surprise to everybody, but the Arizona Cardinals, 4-0, offensively the most points in the league, and they got a pretty good defense as well. Not good, but, I mean, not great, but solid. I guess we'd start to take a look at this Arizona team as a legit contender.
You have to. I thought that they had a chance to be like a wild card contender, but now they look stronger than that. And obviously so much of that is because of Kyler Murray and how good he is. And Kyler, of course, off to a great start. Their running game has been a little bit better than I expected. So you have to look at them very favorably.
Yeah, I'm interested to see them move forward here after the quarter poll. I think we've seen them get off to some good starts in the past. You got Cleveland number 5, and it is another team that, John, feels like it's been kind of for a team that was so bad for so long that we've been waiting to be good. They finally made the playoffs this year, and now I feel like they've been kind of like hanging under the radar a little bit here.
Yeah, that's true. And again, I think the reason I didn't put them up a little bit higher is because Baker Mayfield's been so average. Now we start to find out that I think he's got a shoulder injury. Now he's starting to wear a little bit of a harness, and he's not throwing the ball as well. I mean, they can run the ball. They've got a great offensive line. Defensively, they're good, very good. But, when your quarterback is now more in the middle of the pack than the guys up top, that pulls you down a little bit.
We're looking at some Super Bowl contenders. Let's do one more. The rest of them you can check out over at the Washington Post. And I guess the last one is the Los Angeles Chargers. Now, they beat Kansas City. They won on Monday night. We're starting to feel good about the Chargers finally that it's their time. They've had the talent, just they couldn't close games. They had so many injuries. Is this roster good enough to win the Super Bowl?
I don't know about winning the Super Bowl, but right now the big thing is, can they stay ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs? And right now, the way things are going, they definitely have a chance. I wouldn't put them in a position to win the Super Bowl with a second-year quarterback. That's a lot to ask. But I certainly put them in a position right now, with Kansas City being 2-2 and struggling, to at least be there with Justin Herbert, to be there with Keenan Allen, and you can see the defensive talent is better. And give Brandon Staley credit because he was one of the 7 coaches that went to new teams, and he went to the best team of the 7.
I think a lot of fans around the NFL are going to become Brandon Staley fans after his press conference comments about running the football, John. I guess you've seen him talking about why he believes running the football helps his quarterback. You see Nick Sirianni here ran it 3 times one week, 9 times last week, and then you hear what he had to say about why he likes to run the football for his talented quarterback. I feel like San Diego maybe found the right guy.
Well, the Los Angeles Chargers, not San Diego.
Oh, sorry. L.A.
Yeah, so L.A. But I you like what he said, and certainly having spent 1 year in that Sean McVay offense, he knows the value of the running game, and so you saw what happened. Like the coach of the year last year, Kevin Stefanski, went over to Cleveland, and what's the first thing that he did? He ran the football, and so that made it easier on Baker Mayfield, and you can see that. Just being able to run the ball like they've been able to run it, even though they don't have a lot of good, great backs, is certainly helpful because it makes it easier on the quarterback.
John, earlier today, we had all these moves last night. Jalen Smith gets released. Stephon Gilmore was released, and he got traded. Are we going to start to see more of this? I liken it to the NBA, these buyouts where the teams just don't want these guys anymore. And are we going to start to see more teams cutting ties from veteran players that make a lot of money?
Yeah, I think so. Because, again, it's a tight cap. And, teams are still tight against the cap. Obviously, you can see that the Patriots wanted to bring back Jamie Collins, and they only had less than $1 million of cap room. So something had to give. And, getting the $5.8 million of savings as far as in Gilmore, gave him a chance to do that. But, no, I think we're going to see a bunch more of that.
A couple more with John Clayton here as we look around the league. Ben Roethlisberger, what's the thought on are they going to stick with him until they're mathematically out? Obviously there's a lot of questions around that. They brought Haskins in. Do they want to see him? The problem with them is they've never been able to find a guy behind him. So how's this Big Ben thing going to end?
Well, really, in many ways, they haven't really looked that hard because you figure Ben can play for the longest period of time. But right now, you can see that Ben's all beat up. Now he's got a hip injury. He had the pec injury on his left pec, and he's got a bad offensive line, and he's not able to get the ball downfield. So they'll stick with him as long as they can, because without him, then they're going to be a really bad team, because Mason Rudolph right now, certainly he's proven he's just average coming in as a backup quarterback, and we don't know about Haskins. So in the end, I think they'll stick with Ben as long as they can, but if he keeps getting injured, that'll stop.
John, why the sudden about-face in Chicago as Justin Fields has been named the starter for the rest of the year? Voila, all of a sudden, just like that.
I'm baffled. I mean, again, it's like I question a lot of things that Matt Nagy's doing, and it's like, okay, you're going to put Justin Fields behind that offensive line, one of the worst put together. I mean, you can say he's going to start the rest of the year. I can almost guarantee he's going to get hurt.
Let's leave with this. The Seahawks got a win on the road against San Francisco after losing at home, after losing to Minnesota. Have the Seahawks kind of found out who they are in this last couple of weeks?
Well, they not in the beginning of the game last week. They were terrible both offensively and defensively until the second quarter, but they found out a little bit more about themselves in the second half. Certainly, they found out that Russell Wilson is better with an up-tempo type of offense, and that he got. I mean, you can see that they found some decent things on defense, but there's still the defense is a work in progress.
Sure is. Around the league, Seattle, San Francisco, both 2-2, 3-1 Rams, Arizona 4-0. That West wide open should be a lot of fun. The AFC West, a lot of fun. We're a quarter way through the season. A lot of storylines still to go. Check out John's 10 Super Bowl contenders. He ranks them in order over at the Washington Post. John Clayton, NFL. And, of course, John, kind enough to join us right here on the Sports Best. John, have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Okay, Mike, thanks.